Hey everybody, I'm Kreestin, and if there's one thing you should know about me, it's that I love making lists. Another thing I love is the Sega Genesis. So today we're getting the best of both worlds with a Sega Genesis list. But it's not just any list. It's not even going to be just my outright top 4 favorite games for the Genesis. We always hear praise for the heavy hitters. Sonic, Aladdin, Castle of Illusion, Streets of Rage, you know the ones. Instead, today I want to shine a light on 4 of my favorite offbeat Sega Genesis games. These are going to be strictly games that I feel like I don't hear people talk about as often. That's not to say that people aren't talking about them somewhere, I'm sure they are, but I personally just believe that these games deserve a bit more conversation around them. At the risk of getting a reputation as a horse girl, which I know some of you probably already think about me and is not true, I'm starting the list off with Crystal's Ponytail. In this game, you play as a pony named Crystal, and you also collect crystals. There's a lot of crystals going on in this game, but you're collecting these crystals in order to free your pony friends who have been captured by an evil witch. It's got some really tame puzzles to figure out. It's definitely intended for kids, and on occasion it has some really basic combat where you just jump into your enemy. There's a few different seeds you can wind up with that determine the placement of the crystals in the map, so it's not exactly the same every time you play, but there's also only a few possibilities for where they're going to end up, which also makes this a fun and easy game to speedrun if you're into that. This is one of the only games that I have ever speedran. It only takes about like 12 to 13 minutes once you know the routes. Gameplay aside, as a kid, I do have to call out that the biggest impact this game had on me was in its menu. It lets you customize your pony's colors and also listen to all of the game's versions of classical music that are in it. When I was little, this was probably where I spent like 50% of my gameplay time in this game. I can fully admit that this game won't be for everyone, but this is a game that I played on Sega Channel as a kid, and I spent decades thinking about this game before I was finally able to find a copy as an adult, and I'm still just inexplicably enamored by it. I don't know what it is. It's relatively short and it's very easy, especially once you learn everything that there is to do, but I just appreciate that they made a game like this for the Sega Genesis. I love the Sega Genesis, but it definitely had the reputation of being like, we're the cool console for cool kids doing edgy things, and so the fact that a game like this existed is just so fun, off the wall. This game feels like an acid trip, and I love to talk about it, and I would love for more people to play it. Next up is Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Now, I know Sega Genesis fans might see this and think that this game really isn't that unknown, but I swear to you that every time I stream this game on Twitch, somebody pops in and is baffled by the fact that it exists. The amount of people that come in and go, is this Michael Jackson game? It's gonna happen every single stream, and I absolutely love this game. So if you don't know, Moonwalker is based on a movie of the same name, and it also exists as an arcade game, but the arcade version is a lot different. The Genesis version is still a beat 'em up, but it's more of a platformer style versus the arcade game's style. You play as Michael Jackson's version of himself from the movie, and the goal is that you go around all of the levels rescuing children who have been kidnapped by criminals, and they're hidden throughout the level. You fight enemies by blasting them with magic, you throw your hat at them, and sometimes you even coerce them into dance. Once you save all the kids in a level, all of the enemies on the map disappear, and MJ's pet chimpanzee Bubbles hops on his shoulders to point you towards the boss fight. I'm not making this up. There are also some other crazy things that you can do in this game that I don't want to spoil for you because I feel like stumbling upon it for the first time on your own, like I did, is the best way to experience it, but just know that this game is wild. It's off the wall. Even so, it's really well made and it's fun to play. The music is comprised entirely of Jackson's songs, and it also has a lot of Michael Jackson's famous ad-libs and noises in it as well. You know the ones, the woo! Those are in the game, and they are fantastic. There's a menu where you can just spam them if you want to. The only thing to note with this game is that I personally think the final level is a really sharp difficulty increase because it's a totally different style of gameplay all of a sudden, out of nowhere. I've only ever beaten it once because of that, but I still think this game is way better than any game based on a pop sensation's movie musical has any business being. My next pick, McDonald's Treasureland Adventure, actually has kind of blown up a little bit in recent years. It's gained some steam after it made appearances at major speedrunning events, but in the grand scheme of things, it could still use a bigger spotlight. McDonald's Treasureland Adventure was made by Treasure, which is the same company that did Gunstar Heroes and Dynamite Headdy. I was lucky enough to grab a copy of this game before it spiked in popularity, so I picked it up on a whim thinking, oh, like, a Ronald McDonald game. This is probably gonna suck and be funny, but for that price, I might as well try it out. We could stream it. It'll be a good time. Never in a million years did I expect this game to be fun and well made, but here I am today, recommending it to you. You play as Ronald McDonald, who's piecing together a treasure map, and much like Michael Jackson, flings magic dust at his enemies to take them out. You also have a scarf you can fling around to climb up platforms or ride zip lines. It's bright and colorful, but it isn't harsh on the eyes. I think it really shines in how it controls. It's hard to describe, but it just feels nice to play. A lot of games from this generation are guilty of feeling too slippery or too stiff, but I think this game nails the balance. It is an easier game, but it's definitely not a cakewalk when you're playing it for the first time. It has original music and appearances from all the big McDonald Land characters like Hamburglar and Grimace. I think the only one missing is probably Mayor McCheese, God rest his soul. But most importantly though, this game answered the question that's been on everyone's mind for years, and I'm happy to tell you that the answer is yes. Ronald McDonald is thick. Super thick. I've got a confession to make about this last game, Cheeky Cheeky Boys. 50% of why I even wanted to make this video is just so I could talk about Cheeky Cheeky Boys. I love this game. Nobody ever knows what game I'm talking about when I bring it up, so I'm here to tell you today, everybody please play Cheeky Cheeky Boys. This is another game that was originally an arcade game, but in this case, the arcade version not only plays different, but also went by an entirely different name in the United States. It was called Mega Twins. When it was eventually ported to the Genesis, it was released under its original Japanese name, Cheeky Cheeky Boys. The story is pretty simple and definitely isn't its selling point. The gameplay is more where it shines. You play as two twins who are saving their land from an evil monster, your typical stuff. The game's a side-scrolling platformer and it still feels very arcadey, even in the ported version. Each twin has a sword and a shield to take out your enemies, and you have a limited number of charges to let out a special attack for extra damage when you need it. The movement in this feels great. The soundtrack is a lot of fun, and it's another game that's just full of color and has fun art. Something about this game is just so addicting. I can play it, suffer a crushing defeat near the end, and then just immediately want to play it again. I don't necessarily think it's the most unique game in the world or better than some of the more popular Sega Genesis games, but I do think it's a really solid game, so I'm doing my part to spread the good word of Cheeky Cheeky Boys. I think it deserves so much more than it gets. You should check it out. That's going to do it for this list. I'm interested to hear what your favorite lesser-known Sega Genesis games are. So if you have some takes, even if they're hot takes, lukewarm takes, cold takes, I don't care. I want to hear them. Let me know. I appreciate you sticking around to watch my video, and I'll catch you next time.